What's the first thing that comes to your mind when I say Lord of the Rings? Is it the new Amazon show? Is it the original trilogy from the early 2000s that was actually good? No, it's neither of those things. Because you're a South Park fan, a being of immaculate taste and ridiculously high intellect. So your first thought went to one of the most important pieces of media in the history of the universe. Backdoor Sluts 9.
Backdoor Sluts 9?
Don't worry, there's no need to comment and tell me about how incredibly correct I was, because today we've got a much more important mission at hand, and that mission is called, I tell you why I really like the South Park Lord of the Rings episode for 20-something minutes. Yeah, you know how this thing goes. I like to review / overanalyze South Park, and today we're going with the Season 6 classic that still stands tall as one of the best in the series. The Return of the Fellowship of the Ring to the Two Towers.
Oh, great wizard of Kregendath! What quest do you ask of this ranger and paladin? Only one thing can save our kingdom. You must bring me a piece of pecan pie with toffee ice cream and magic show. Hurry now!
Oh yeah, you just know it's gonna be a good episode when this is the first thing you see. Now, my last two videos about South Park episodes, I talked about how the opening scenes had perfect characterization, because they both do such great jobs at introducing the main characters with just 1 or 2 lines. But this episode doesn't have that. I mean, you could say that Cartman sending them on a quest for pecan pie tells us that he's fat, but we don't exactly need ears to figure that one out. Instead, where this episode excels is in its storytelling, and how efficiently it's able to create a narrative that spirals into this chaotic adventure. Starting with this opening scene. It begins by establishing that the boys are role-playing Lord of the Rings, which lets us know what to expect for the remainder of the episode. Or so we think. Because from there, nearly every scene or interaction builds on that premise into something far more ridiculous, including a major twist that sets up the rest of the episode. But before any of that happens, it all starts with Randy giving the kids their first big quest.
Boys, Butter's parents want to borrow the Lord of the Rings video we rented. Could you take it over to them?
You're sending us on a quest? You ask of us to take the one video to the House of Butters?
Yeah, whatever.
It shall be a long journey with many dangers on the way. But if the tape must be brought to the House of Butters, who else can do it?
Look at those excited faces. Now, I've talked a lot about how most of my favorite South Park episodes are the ones that have no B-plot, like Scott Tenorman Must Die, Breast Cancer Show Ever, Awesomeo. I love me a good singularly focused storyline. But this episode is an exception for me because of how it nails the whole A-plot, B-plot structure. You'll see what I mean as the episode goes on, but they do an amazing job of connecting the two storylines together in a way that feels very organic and logical. Even the way this opening scene starts off by setting up the storyline with the boys, only to switch focus halfway through where it recenters on Sharon and Randy to kick off the B-plot about the adults.
That gets rid of them.
Ooh, you're a little frisky, aren't you?
Yeah, well, the Lord of the Rings wasn't the only thing I rented from the video store. I also rented a
Oh, you little devil!
You wanna go watch?
Man, this scene makes me miss the days when Randy was still kinda normal. Like, this moment would never happen with modern Randy. Modern Randy feels more like an overgrown child that Sharon is putting up with instead of an actual husband. But here they actually feel like a real couple, and I miss that. I miss the old Randy.
How shall we journey to the House of Butters? Through the mines of Vandor or over the mountains of Grok? Look out! Here comes the great dragon of Perengraph! Don't worry, I'm the great wizard Mototurk. I can shield us from the dragon's fire.
Now, I know that I've basically mentioned this in almost every video, probably, but I'm gonna do it again, because if there's one thing I love more than obscure references, it's the fact that repetition works, David, okay? Like many South Park fans, I think the best episodes are the ones where the kids act like real kids. You know, stuff like the Black Friday trilogy, the Coon and Friends episodes, Little Crime Stoppers, Good Times with Weapons. But this Lord of the Rings episode is the first time that the show ever really did something like that. That concept where all of the kids are playing together in this grand make-believe storyline. I think the closest we ever came before that was the season 4 episode Wacky Molestation Adventure. You know, that whole Smiley Town, Children of the Corn-ass episode, but that wasn't quite as fully realized as this one. It was missing the emphasis on the kids' imaginations and how it's all a game that they're playing together. So I think this episode deserves a little credit for pioneering that style, which paved the way for a lot of the show's future, including its 2 main games.
Hey there, cowboy.
You ready for some hot, steamy fun?
You bet I am.
The guys at the office told me I had to rent this They said this is without a doubt the hottest ever made.
Sounds good.
Holy hell, this scene is amazing. I mean, first of all, what the is Sharon even wearing? Check out that sexy door motion she does here. I actually really like this scene because of how real it feels. The way they're both trying to be sexy with the clothing and the role-playing, but not really nailing it, but still enjoying themselves anyway. That is the most authentic married couple I've ever seen, and I love it.
The story begins in ages.
So apparently I can't show this scene on YouTube because the original got age restricted thanks to the drawing of Randy. So I'm just gonna put this little gif of sexual harassment panda here instead. Also, I use this clip a bunch of times throughout the video, so I'm just gonna put him there too.
Wow, the production values are really good in this porno.
Yeah, it almost looks like the Lord of the... Oh my God! This is Lord of the Rings!
But then does that mean...
That the boys have the hottest ever made.
And there it is, the big twist that really kicks this episode into gear. Randy accidentally gave the boys a that they're now about to give to Butters. And what can I say about this other than the fact that it's genius? With this simple and crazy setup, they're able to retell the story of the Lord of the Rings in their own insane way that feels like it could actually happen. And I don't care what anyone says, this episode is a sitcom. Like, I honestly believe that this is situational comedy at its finest. It's not a character study like Osimo or Casa Bonita. It's a story that is specifically designed around situational comedy. And as you'll see throughout this episode, they do an amazing job of providing the characters with perfect motivations for all the ridiculous and crazy situations that they get themselves into. Except for Butters' parents, who spend the entire episode looking for the kids when really they should just be talking to Butters.
Oh, hello, boys.
My father has asked that we bring you this copy of Lord of the Rings.
Well, thank you very much, kind heroes.
Perhaps a reward is in order. Gold, Frankenstein cents?
Oh, but you are noble heroes. We know our thanks is enough.
Man, that's crap.
Man, Butters' dad turned that around on them way too quickly. You can tell he has experience dealing with imaginative kids.
Butters, look what we have for you to watch. The Lord of the Rings.
Oh boy, finally I get to see it.
Now, I just did a whole video talking about Butters and how innocent he can be compared to the other kids, so I won't dive too deep into that here. But having Butters be the recipient of that tape was such a good move from a storytelling standpoint. Not only because it's hilarious that he'd be exposed to something so outside of his understanding, but also because the tape is supposed to be like the ring from the movies. It corrupts anyone who possesses it. And what better way to demonstrate that corruptive power than by giving it to the most innocent and naive kid on the show?
Oh my God, this is gonna be so embarrassing. Hi, Chris. Hi, Linda. We were just wondering if we could get our porno back.
Calm down, maybe the boys haven't gotten there yet.
Quick, a monster of Rivendell. Prepare for battle.
The boys.
Boys, where's the videotape?
This is another great example of a scene that combines both the A plot and B plot together by having them intersect and refocus from one character group to the other. Also, it's possibly the most important scene in this episode, because it marks the point in the story when the tape itself begins to take on a life of its own. It introduces the boys to the idea that it might actually have supernatural powers, which will only get reinforced more and more as the episode goes on. And that's all thanks to a seemingly harmless lie that Randy tells them.
You must retrieve the tape, but do not look at it, for it holds an evil power. Retrieve the tape and return it to us at home. Do this, and you will be greatly rewarded.
Wow, this is so cool. Gentlemen, we are off.
Okay, problem solved.
What's funny is that this episode could have just ended here. Randy and Sharon could have just sucked it up and gotten the tape themselves and everything would have worked out fine. But they're stupid. So they don't, which kind of means that this whole episode is directly their fault. Not just because they accidentally mixed up the tapes, that shit happens, but because they lied to the kids instead of cleaning up their own mess.
Oh, golly. Hey, what's happening down there? We have come to reclaim the one tape. Whoa, what are you doing? The Queen and King of Stanza's house wish the Lord of the Rings returned to them. But it's the greatest movie I've ever seen. You guys were right.
I love how Butters isn't turned off by the tape, but intrigued instead. Because I mean, as far as he knows, this is Lord of the Rings, especially since his parents said it was, and why would they lie? So maybe that's why he's being so open-minded towards it. But I find it interesting that his reaction is so different from how Token reacts to it later in this episode. Butters doesn't get traumatized by what he sees. If anything, he gets a little too into it, which turns into the first bit of confirmation for the boys that maybe the tape actually is somehow evil.
Butters, we said you can't watch it. We have a quest. Well, then let me go with you. Okay, fine, Butters. But if you're gonna hang out with us, you have to play like Lord of the Rings. Okay. Yeah.
I don't like this new side of Butters. Change him back. Change him back.
You're a freak, Butters. You can't play with us. Let me have the tape. No, we have to return it. My movie. My awesome, cool movie. My precious.
Again, it's just so clever how they're able to use something as simple as that tape to do scenes like this and have them make sense. Now, would I say that makes me want to crack open their heads and feast on the goo inside?
Yes, I would, Kent.
Well, well, well. If it isn't Robin Hood and his merry men.
Oh, crap, the sixth graders.
What you got there?
Nothing. Hey, kid.
Lord of the Rings? Ha! That movie's gay.
You're gay.
I really love the choice of making the sixth graders the antagonists for the boys in this episode, because it adds a sense of depth and hierarchy to the town that you don't really get from just having it be about the main kids and their parents. By having a group of slightly older kids who don't buy into the role-playing imagination stuff, it makes the town feel more real and lived in. Plus, it really adds a layer of immersion to the boys' side of the story that gives their adventure a grand feeling, especially since it makes for a good threat to their quest, which is established during this first confrontation.
What the? Whoa! Check it out, you guys!
Whoa! Give it back. We're on a quest to return it to my parents.
No way! We're keeping this and watching it ourselves.
You can't keep it.
And what are three little fourth graders gonna do about it, huh?
There's 4 of us. Kenny's soul is still trapped in Cartman's body. Yeah!
Ah yes, the classic Cartman drank Kenny's ashes arc. One of the many great reasons that season 6 ended up being so awesome and unique. Definitely got to do a video about that at some point. Also, what exactly is the age threshold for the South Park kids to be interested in adult content? You know, like this videotape or Bubes?
Bubes!
Oh my God,
These sixth graders are only supposed to be 2 years older than them, right? Do kids change that much in 2 years? Is it because they have noses? Do you have to be of nose age to be interested in Bubes?
Dude, that video is making people act strange. The one tape must be returned. Run!
Get 'em!
Damn, that was a pretty sweet move from Cartman to get that tape back. Fat boys can move, don't make me sit on you. But yeah, this is the point of the story that really solidifies how the boys perceive the tape, which sets up the events for the rest of this episode. Because now, everyone's motivations are set in place. The boys run off because they want to vanquish the evil tape. The sixth graders want it because it's a dirty video and they have noses. The parents are after them because they're worried about their kids seeing stuff they wouldn't understand and want to put it into context. And all of that results in a wacky goose chase where all hell breaks loose. So it's all very simple and believable, yet it's gonna spiral completely out of control in the second and third acts of this episode, which in my opinion is South Park doing what it does best, taking a simple situation and pushing it into absurd and ridiculous territory.
Butters!
Butters? Butters!
Precious. Could you bring back my precious?
I love that the scene has a horror feel to it with the shadows and flashing TV light. Now, since we know that Butters hasn't actually seen Lord of the Rings, him acting like Gollum after watching the video can only mean one thing. He really do be a horny freak though. But yeah, that tape totally broke his brain. Gollum Butters is obviously one of the funniest parts of the episode, and the reason it works so well is because it's Butters. And as I talked about in my video on him, he's usually the most consistent character on the show. No matter what crazy thing is happening to him, he's pretty much always authentically himself. But this episode breaks that rule on purpose to emphasize the messed up nature of Backdoor Sluts 9. That video is so powerful that it can turn Butters from a happy, innocent kid into whatever the hell this is.
Butters, where is the movie you were watching?
They took his precious. Took it away to watch without him. He was really enjoying that movie too. My precious.
Yeah, Butters is definitely into that freaky shit. Who knew that taking the Lord of the Rings and replacing hobbits with 9-year-olds in the ring with a was a recipe for comedy gold?
And all the boys are out there somewhere with a graphic videotape.
Oh, God, this is horrible.
All right, calm down. Now, just how bad of a tape are we talking here? I mean, was it like Crotch Capers 3?
I'm afraid it was Backdoor Sluts 9. Backdoor Sluts 9?
I love that this tape is basically famous amongst all the men in town. Gerald and Steven know it. Later in the episode, Token's dad knows it. The video store guy specifically recommended it. They really do a lot to make this thing feel like more than just a naughty tape. Also, I gotta say, why do the Broflovskis have a picture of Kyle and Ike standing in front of a freak show tent? Like, is that really the picture you wanted to hang on your walls? Hey ma, look at me standing next to all the freaks.
Is that bad?
Backdoor Sluts 9 makes Crotch Capers 3 look like naughty nurses too.
It is the single most vile, twisted, dark piece of ever made.
How the hell do you know?
I read about it in People.
It's interesting that Sheila takes so much issue with Gerald knowing about the video, whereas Linda just seems innocently curious. Meanwhile, Sharon is over there like, yeah, I was gonna watch that thing with my husband just about an hour ago. Yeah, Sharon's an underrated character.
Well, Sheila, we can't shelter our boys forever from these things. Maybe it's okay for them to see an adult film.
Not without their parents to put it in a proper context. They won't understand what they're saying.
It can't hurt them that much, can it?
Precious, let me see my precious. Please.
Did I mention that this episode has masterful comedic timing? Cause yeah, it does. I really think that's one of the hallmarks of what makes it so great, as we'll see in some of the upcoming scenes, and especially the ending. Also, I like that Leanne is the only parent here to think maybe it's not so bad that the kids are seeing the tape, because it's very fitting for her character that she would be the most sex positive of the bunch, you know, cause she's a crack whore.
All right, everybody listen up. There's 3 snot-nosed little 4th graders out there who have a called Backdoor Sluts 9.
If you look in the back, you'll see that Scott Tenorman is one of the 6th graders on bikes. Kinda cool, just wanted to point that out. Otherwise, pretty standard scene that's just here to escalate how much of a threat the 6th graders are, now that they've basically turned into an army.
And so that is the situation. The videotape may or may not have evil powers. Kyle, would you bring it up here, please?
Now, I've talked about how this episode paved the way for future role-playing episodes of South Park, but this scene is where that concept really takes shape for the first time. Because before this part, the episode is just the boys playing a game together, which we've seen plenty of times throughout the series. But here, we learn that all the other kids are part of the game too, making it sort of a monumental moment for the show. Even though technically we learned that scene earlier when they met with Clyde, but I cut that part out of my script, so just pretend it never happened.
That video could have been made by Saren's evil forces. It could hold a mental spell of some kind.
Perhaps we could use it to strengthen our star cruisers.
Kevin, god damn it.
By the way, speaking of monumental moments, this might be the most important moment for Kevin's character in the entire show. Because before this, he was just a background character, and let's be real, he's barely been fleshed out since then. I mean, his main character trait today is that he likes doing sci-fi stuff when the kids are doing something else.
Pirates ho! Pirates ho! Ho! Kevin, god damn it.
And that all started right here in this episode. Yeah, we just got monumental moments all around here. Even Pip is getting invited to play with everyone.
Only a paladin with a high constitution should watch the tape. Therefore, I think it is a job for you, Talangar the Black. I'm not scared.
That pause on Token after he says Talangar the Black. Yeah, this scene, while I enjoy it, is probably one of the less funny parts of this episode. It's mostly just a vehicle for pushing the plot forward by introducing the expanded group of kids, as well as their new mission to go to the video rental store. But I think that's fine, because it sets up a lot of the funny moments that come later in this episode, including 2 of my all-time favorite jokes that come from Token watching the tape.
4th graders! Give us that
Boys, we're not mad at you. We just want to talk to you.
This quick scene is also nothing particularly special, but again, it's useful as an establishing moment, because it makes the episode feel bigger than just some kids running around with the tape. There's an army of angry 6th graders wielding torches and a bunch of worried parents driving around looking for them. It gives the tone a frantic sense of urgency about it. It's getting real, it's not just a game anymore.
Talangar the Black returns from watching the video. What sights did you see on the videotape, Talangar? Is it the work of Soren's magic?
I'm not playing anymore.
Whoa, wait, what'd you see?
I don't know. I don't want to know. I'm out.
Now look, I'm a simple man. I like playing TFT after work, girls that are extra thick, and the cool feeling of mint soap on my balls after a nice shower. So naturally, when it comes to an episode of South Park, all I really need are some funny scenes, and I'll be satisfied. And this scene delivers that for me. Everything about Token here is just so funny to me. The way he comes back to the gathering, dressed normally as they confront him with Middle-earth speak. The way he does that hand clap thing that I love so much for reasons I don't even understand. And just the mere thought that whatever was on that tape was so disturbing that it made him completely quit playing altogether. Truly a top tier gag if I've ever seen one. And it hits especially hard because up until this point, nothing has been able to pull these kids out of their game. Not even the threat of 6th graders that want to kick their asses. A Backdoor Sluts 9? That's some serious shit.
You're too young. Class, you're holding yours. Stop acting like a bunch of assholes. I will take it. I will walk to the video store. It is too far and too dangerous to go alone. Take with you the wizard, the dwarf, the warrior, the cleric, and the Jew.
Paladin!
Only the 6 of us are to go? No, there's 7 of us. Kenny's soul is still trapped in Cartman's body, remember? Yeah, stupid. Yeah, luckily Cartman's big enough for the both of us. Shut up, Kenny.
You know, back when this episode aired, to have Kenny speak through Cartman like that was actually kind of cool. Before that, the only time he'd ever been intelligible was at the end of the South Park movie, which was just for like one line. I mean, obviously it doesn't feel as special today since we have Mysterion and other talking moments, but still, back then, it was pretty novel to have him speak, even if it was through Cartman.
And so it was that the heroes traveled many miles to return the Lord of the Rings to the video store.
We have reached the great pass of Mount Uralak. Look out! We were almost killed! A dark wizard must be trying to stop us!
I think a big part of the charm that comes from the kids role-playing like this is in how oblivious it makes them. There is an actual threat to their safety coming from the literal army of 6th graders that want to find them. And even if they're not fully aware of that yet, they should at least know that one gang of 6th graders has been chasing them. Yet they instead act like a pile of snow falling down is a threat to their lives because they're so immersed in their little fantasy game. And I really like that, because it makes them feel that much more innocent and kid-like.
Token? Did the boys come over and show you a movie?
Token? All right, Token, we know you must be very confused about what you saw.
The way Token is just silently staring at the wall as the parents come in is so good. This movie literally breaks these kids' brains when they see it. But yeah, I love how the approach with Token here is so different from Butters. He doesn't turn into some weird Gollum type monster. Instead, what happens with him is much more subtle and grounded, which kind of makes it funnier in my opinion. Because he's like fully traumatized. He's not even responding to the parents when they ask him questions.
Well, you see, when a man and a woman fall in love, the man puts his penis in the woman's vagina. It's called lovemaking, and it's part of being in love.
And when the woman has 4 penises in her at the same time, then stands over the men and pees on them, is that part of being in love too? 5 midgets spanking a man covered with Thousand Island dressing. Is that making love?
See what I'm saying? This is peak South Park. This is some virtuoso level comedy writing. I love it. I love it.
Yes, we shall slay the ringworm and take its bounty of treasure, for that is the way of the—
I shall put a magic spell on you.
I have blocked your spell, wizard. Hey, what are you guys doing? We're playing Harry Potter. Ha! Fags!
I like that this moment separates the South Park kids from what I'm assuming would be normal kids. Because, you know, normal 9-year-olds aren't supposed to be vulgar and swearing a bunch. That's kind of what makes the kids from South Park so special. Or at least it was back when the show first came out. And I feel like the shocked expressions on the faces of these Harry Potter kids demonstrates that divide nicely. They're far more prude and innocent than our boys. Also, I find it really funny that Cartman seems to hate Harry Potter so much.
Whatever. I'm going back to play with the Harry Potter kids.
Me too.
Go ahead and play, Harry Butthole Pussy Potter!
I'm not gonna lie though, if I was a 9-year-old kid in this show, I'd probably be one of the Harry Potter kids.
You shall not poo! You shall not poo! You shall poo! You shall not piss.
This is probably one of the most iconic moments from this episode. I remember seeing it in commercials for the show all the time back in the early 2000s, and it was one of the more memorable Jimmy gags back then, especially since he was still pretty new to the show and hadn't had too many appearances yet outside of Cripple Fight. They hadn't really fleshed out his character too much yet, so at the time he was best known for jokes that played on a speech impediment, and that was pretty much it.
Yeah, good job, wizard fat ass. Now we're totally lost. We're not lost, Jugar of Julingrad. We just don't know where we are. That's what lost means, stupid. Kenny, shut your goddamn mouth!
Yes, I skipped the crossing water scene. I know, it's very funny, but I have nothing to say about it, okay? I've already talked about how this episode finds good in-world reasons for why the story mirrors The Lord of the Rings. You really need me to say it again? All you need to know is that the kids barely managed to evade the 6th graders and that they're gonna find the video store with the help of Butters, who's been following them the whole time.
Where did the boys go with the porno tape?
They took it back to the video
stockyard. What's a video stockyard, Jimmy?
No, the video
Stinger? Staples. They went to the video Staples. Where's that, Jimmy?
No, you retards! The video store!
One of my favorite things about old South Park is that it often felt like the kids were the smart ones and the parents were insanely stupid. And this scene is a pretty great example of that. Today it often feels like the stupidity of the adults has been funneled into specific characters like Randy or Steven, whereas most of the other adults act fairly normal most of the time. But back then, it was pretty common for every adult to be this dumb. And I personally think that helped give characters like Stan and Kyle some edge when it came to delivering their I learned something today speeches at the end of each episode. Also, poor Jimmy doesn't even get offered a ride in the car despite being handicapped.
Oh no! They're closed! Closed?
There they are! Don't let him turn it back into the video store!
We're screwed. Wait, a Dropbox! Quick, Kyle, drop the movie in!
Finally!
So if I have one major criticism for this episode, it's that the ending climax part doesn't quite hit as strongly as everything that comes before it. I mean, you'd think it would, because the 6th grader army has finally caught up with them and the parents finally know their location. So for all intents and purposes, it should feel like all hell is about to break loose. But in reality, it doesn't, because there are no actual stakes or consequences left at this point. Like, imagine for a second that this episode ended differently, and that the 6th graders did get the tape from the boys before they could put it in the Dropbox. What would that change? Nothing really. That's because the excitement in this episode comes from the journey, the boys trying to get across town to reach the video store. Once they're actually there, it doesn't really make a difference if they drop it off or not, so the intensity kind of just dissipates. But I also don't think it's a significant enough flaw to detract from the episode, since it's only really relevant to the last 2 minutes. And besides, the focus here was never on suspense like it was with Casa Bonita. This was just about telling a funny story that emphasized situational comedy over character-driven narratives. And as far as I'm concerned, it did a kick-ass job at achieving that.
Precious must have our precious. Butters, no! Now Squeeze has it. They're coming!
It has to go back!
It wants us to stay with the Butterses.
There it is! Give me that tape!
That smile is so good. The fact that Butters is willing to run towards the 6th graders in this situation is really a testament to how far gone he is at this point.
Precious!
No! No, no!
The tape is returned to which it came. Its power over you shall fade as well. Middle Earth is again safe.
Yeah? Well, that's not gonna stop us from kicking your asses.
Uh-oh.
Having the parents save the kids at the end of this episode is a nice way to wrap up both storylines at once, feels very natural. But most importantly, this confrontation between the kids and the parents has been building since the first act of this episode. It's been an epic adventure full of chaotic moments for the boys. They were just about to get their asses kicked. It has all been culminating to this point. But when we finally get there, the epic tone gets completely dropped so that the parents can deliver the best punchline in the entire episode. And the way that totally juxtaposes the tone of everything that came before it makes for such amazing comedic timing.
All right, now listen, kids. There's some things we need to put into context for you. You see, a man puts his
Hoo-hoo dilly.
into a woman's
Cha-cha.
for both love and pleasure. But sometimes the woman lays on top of the man, facing the other way, so that they can put each other's in their mouths. This is called 69ing, and it's normal.
The icing on the cake here is, of course, the fact that these kids never saw the tape and did not need to hear any of this, which is a nice little touch of irony, since the whole point of their talk is to provide context, yet it was completely out of context.
See, boys, a woman is sensitive in her
Cha-cha.
and it feels good to have a man's
Hoo-hoo dilly.
inside of it.
That's right, but sometimes a woman chooses to use other things. Telephones, staplers, magazines. It's because the nerve endings in the hoo-hoo dilly are so sensitive. It's like a fun tickle.
Now, on to double penetration, boys.
I die every time I hear Gerald say, "Okay boys, on to double penetration." Yeah, I couldn't think of a more South Park-y way to end a story like this. Overall, I think this is a landmark episode that set the stage for so many future highlights of the show. It's tightly written, it's funny, and it manages to recreate the story of The Lord of the Rings in a way that feels very realistic to the South Park universe. So truly, it is South Park at its finest, which even Matt Stone seems to think, according to the director's commentary.
This is to us like if we could make every South Park episode this good, we'd be really psyched.
Some South Park episodes are brilliant because of the messages they convey. Others are brilliant because of how they flesh out their best characters. But this one doesn't have an elaborate reason for what makes it so great. It's just a standard episode of South Park that does what South Park does best, telling a funny story. And it does that with damn near perfect execution, which is why I love it so goddamn much. So yeah, in a nutshell, those are my thoughts on why I think this is a perfect episode, plus a bunch of extra crap that I probably didn't even need to say. Anyways, since this is a season 6 episode, which was the original season of Butters, it's only fitting that he should get the final gag of the episode, which brings us to the end of the return of the Fellowship of the Ring to the Two Towers.
Wait a minute, where's Butters?
Who is has our precious? Has it?